if you could describe, Trevor, what is a novation deal, and what are the like three things that everybody should do, or what do they need to do to get one of those?
I would say novations are my bread and butter, right? And I want to kind of back up a little
Mhm.
bit. I started when I was in the service, doing the house hacking. And then when I started, finding real estate as a vehicle, I went directly to active income. So I went into wholesale real estate.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host. I'm glad to have you back listening to the show or watching if that's the case. We got a great guest today, Trever Ahing, all the way from beautiful, sunny California. So, Trevor, thanks, man, for joining us here. I know I've been reading up, and I know you're a busy guy, so I really just want to say thank you because I know we're lucky to have you. you know,
Of course. Of course, Gary. No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, man.
you got it. Hey, you've got an awesome background, and I want people to hear a little bit about that if you don't mind sharing. And then and that'll build up some context to where you are today. So take us from where you were when you first started in the service, and what led you to the real estate industry? Was there like a person you met, a tipping point, a conference? If you can give us that too, then we'll get into some real meat and potatoes.
Gary, this is my favorite story, man. So I had no inkling whatsoever. I didn't come from, my parents didn't own any houses. Neither were they in the military as well. So kind of falling into the category of both is just it's a whirlwind. I initially did parkour free running. I don't know if you know what that is, but I got paid to jump off buildings, for a couple years, and
Oh,
that was something I thought could pay the bills. It doesn't, and so I ended up
mhm.
kind of start getting more and more involved into what I could do, and I wanted to lean into travel. I was at a Subway one time, and I had a service member come up to me who was a recruiter. Long story short, he says, "Hey, Trev, I'll buy your Subway if you end up talking to me for 10 minutes." And I was like, "What a sucker." He's going to give me free Subway. There's no way I'm joining. Well, about 6 weeks later, I was in Marine Corps boot camp,
Uh,
so
yeah.
I hit the ground running with that. And I'll tell you right now, that was the best thing I ever did. And that was over in 2013, April of 2013. And I did about 5.5 years without any inkling in real estate. I really wanted to do about 30 years in the service. That was something I wanted to transition to. I love the independence it gave me. I really felt like it kind of positioned me to have my self identity and some good responsibility away from my family. And then I got married. I met my wife overseas when I was in Africa. She's actually lives right down the street from me. We didn't even know each other for 20 years, which is so funny. So she lived in Northern California with me. And when we were stationed over in Miramar and San Diego on my 6th year, she says, honey, I'm going to get into real estate. And I said, baby, do it. You're beautiful. You can go sell all my friends' houses, make some side
Yeah.
money. And I bought her a seminar, to go to in San Diego for about $60, which at the time I wasn't wasting those $60, And so the time came, Gary, and she chickened out. She didn't want to go, and it was like it was more of a passive, investment, how to transition your license into, real estate investments. And so it was a little different. I think that might have jaded her from going, but I said I'm gonna go. So I decided to go
Yeah.
to this meetup. I came back. I said, honey, drop everything you're doing. I'm dropping papers. We're going to become millionaires in real estate. She's like, you have no idea what you're doing. And I said, no, I don't, but I know people do. So I started leaning heavy into that. I utilized my VA loan to house hack my first couple properties, rented all my rooms out to my military buddies, started cash flowing that way, saved up more money, started buying passive investments, and I transitioned into creative real estate investing. And I got out in 2021 with my current business.
Wow. Well, that's a lot. So,
It was a lot. It was a whirlwind,
yeah.
man.
Yeah. If you don't mind sharing, I mean, everybody's always asking me what books do I read and what training programs I've taken. And what's interesting, I actually started a playlist just for all the books I've read because it's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, and that doesn't even
Oh yeah.
count the Audible that I've listened to. I've got over 100 Audible titles too. But anything you can, like you mentioned, the training in San Diego, and I've heard from a lot of the great ones. You know, Carlton Sheets goes all the way back, to like the 80s and 90s. And then, there's even a Robert Allen's actually, he's not far from me. He's north of San Diego,
Oh
got a
really?
beautiful house on the coast there. Yep, he goes
Mm.
back, no money down. But anybody in particular was a big influence. A lot of people say Robert Kiyosaki. He was one of mine too, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad was a staple. Anybody who's even listening to this as a vehicle to try to get in front of it, but you don't know the next step, I would say the next step is probably Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? I highlighted that
Yep.
book a lot, and it really just kind of allows you to build a easy foundation into knowing that real estate is attainable, you know? And
Yep.
then I read The Burr Method by David Green. I thought that was a
Yep.
great book. And that's what positioned me. Anybody who has already a W-2, they want to start trying to look at how to be able to start cash flowing. There's great ways to utilize the Burr method on midterm rentals, short-term rentals. And then if you really want to dive into it, I read the book Traction, every year. I think that is a
Yep.
phenomenal book to be able to come into. The EOS system is something I think everybody should implement. And even if you're kind of utilizing this as a side hobby, identifying, your role, in the business and see exactly, kind of what holes you need to fill. That's a damn good book that's going to be able to, have you look in the mirror every single time you read it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I've read those. I love those. And David Green and I, we used to be at the same brokerage together, and we were in a mastermind group together called
Oh,
Abundance.
nice.
Amazing, yeah, amazing men's group, and it was a women's group too. Women's group, they tend to be a little smarter than us guys. We'll take a winter trip to go freezing our butts off skiing for a week, and they'll go to down like Cabo or something. They're
I
sipping
know.
coconut drinks, and we're up there freezing. They got ice coming out of our noses and stuff.
Both
So,
sound fun, but I mean, yeah, we have another level of fun. That's awesome that you know David on that side. I know he just stopped Bigger Pockets, but been following him for years.
yeah. Yeah. So so we were in the group together. We got to meet Robert Kiyosaki in person. He came to visit us one day. We were in Tahoe on that trip. And so a lot to be learned there. And guys, everybody listening, this is really, really important. Learning and networking go hand in hand. So if you're looking to get into real estate, join a local club. You don't have to jump in all in at one time. I mean, maybe you should, but if you're not certain, take one step, put one foot in, join a local club. You'll meet people. They'll have guest speakers come around every month or every quarter or something, and read and read and read and study and learn and learn and learn. I mean, success is this. Success is number one, education, right education. Plus number two, the right information. Plus number three, the right action equals number four, the right results. I know I'm simplifying things, but it all starts with knowledge. You've got to learn, right? So, in any case, let's get back to you. I was reading something about a novation deal. If you could describe, Trevor, what is a novation deal, and what are the like three things that everybody should do, or what do they need to do to get one of those?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, I would say innovations are my bread and butter, right? And I want to kind of back up a little
Mhm.
bit. I started when I was in the service, doing the house hacking. And then when I started, finding real estate as a vehicle, I went directly to active income. So I went into wholesale real estate, right? Kind of what everybody
Mhm.
tends to find is, kind of assignment real estate. And I started, doing a lot more off-market campaigns. I call them the 4Ds: death, distress, divorce, and debt. If they fall into one of those categories, they're probably going to be a good property to be able to take and assign your position to an investor. Well, as I started getting a couple and creating consistency that way, I started building my operations out, but I kept finding limbo properties. So properties that couldn't go on market because they're just dated and they need some work, but they're not distressed sellers where they're going to take 50 cents on the dollar, right? And so I felt like there was a way to bridge that
Mhm.
gap. Started leaning into more of more service to be able to help out with this. And I pitched out something that I learned from Pace Morby, right? And so Pace Morby ended up positioning more of a creative strategy where I talked to the homeowner. And I want to give some context behind this because this is what innovation really is. It really is just kind of an on market wholesale deal, right? You're just testing the
Yep.
optimism of the market by locking the seller into a certain net profit that they want. And then you take on the marketing, maintenance, and management of the deal by trying to put it on market. You cover the agent fees, the closing costs, whatever's left over will just be a return on
Mhm.
what the difference is, right? So it really is a wholesale deal on market. And so as I position my limbo deals, I called them and I realized, they just want convenience still, right? Whether I
Mhm.
close in 10 days or whether I close in 2 months, if they get their price, they're ecstatic. So I
Mhm.
revisited all of my dead wholesale deals and I said, hey, look, Brenda, all my sellers are Brenda. I'm like, hey, look, Brenda, if I can get you this price, right? Why don't I just take this thing and start looking at what I can do on market and off market at the same time? I have top 1% realtors in the area, so if I
Mhm.
can identify a good price that it could probably move for, and I might put some money into it to help clean the property up, whether it's a thousand to 5,000. If I do find a price that I could sell, the buyer's going to cover my fee, but that amount that you want to walk away with, I'm only going to take offers above that. She loved it, right? In my first novation deal, we ended up locking her in for about 330,000. I sold it for 410,000, and I made just about more than what I made as an entire year as a staff sergeant in the military. And I said, there's
Yeah,
something to this. And so I started kind of dabbling with different approaches for novation. Some properties I put $0, and I've had properties where I put 300 plus $1,000 into them, depending on what my return is now. Do I
yeah.
recommend you start with the reno? No, because there is paperwork to help protect you. But what I do recommend is, you need to anchor low, get your cash offer out there. Don't be afraid. You got to become numb to the no. Do not be afraid to hear some rebuttals from them, and then start working them into a solution. And that solution, I do believe, is testing the optimism of the market and taking over that headache for them. I call myself the Tylenol for their headache, right? That's what I think novations can perform. So allowing that and started creating a baseline for off-market opportunity, you can translate that very well to the market, because especially in today's day and age, you have industries where people are still going above and beyond to acquire homes in certain areas.
Mhm.
And if you hit those areas, you make a lot of really good money.
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live. Be ready to take notes and ask questions, because it's live and engaging, and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to GaryRealEstateWithGaryWilson.com. Click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of great websites for research where you can find the movement of people between states, and you can find the movement of money between states. So it's not always the two don't always go hand in hand. I mean, often they do, but I mean, for example, a lot of people in like New York City and Toronto are investing, in any place other than New York City and Toronto, because it's very difficult and expensive. So they'll go
Yeah.
to places like Texas and Arizona. So now, given what you were talking about, is there a formula, or is it just like it comes with experience? How do you find the balance, with securing the profit and providing a solution for the seller? Because you mentioned what you're doing in there in the playing like a middleman role, but is that pretty much it, or is there more to them and you have to listen to their story, or kind of maybe take us through like a scenario, if you don't, without divulging names, you know,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Yeah, I'll give one that's one of my favorite novations, right? I think this one's pretty cookie cutter. And because we have multiple options, and I want to make sure that you address the fact that you want to walk the seller to a solution that best fits them. And I do think that when you go into the novation model, you really are just a service. You tell your homeowners you're not going to be buying it, but you can position them and bridge that gap between their price
Right.
and a solution, right? So let's give an after repair value of about $500,000, right? If it's worth
Mhm.
500,000, you talked about formula. If it needs $50,000 worth of work, and let's say you want to make $20,000 as a wholesaler, you're going to go through the typical wholesale formula of after repair value times 75% of its value, minus your renovation, minus your fee, equals what you call a max allowable offer. You need to always start with that. So in this case, because I got it memorized, that's about 280,000 bucks. So I always say, if you offer them
Okay.
280 and they take it, you do the damn wholesale deal. If it's a wholesale deal, do the wholesale deal, right? It's very quick money. It's very
Right.
easy to get them in front of the situation because if they got to close quick, they got to take a quick offer. That's what you're doing. Now, if you offer 280, Gary,
Yep.
and they go kick rocks, that's horrible. I need at least $360,000, right? That's a dead wholesale deal. That is a picture perfect novation because you just end up
Yeah.
opening the opportunity by saying, okay, well, I'll tell you right now, 360,000 is above what my buy box is, but I do have good news, right? I've spoken to my creative department. If I could guarantee you 360,000, I could probably get you approved through one of our novation programs. In this case, we call it our equity protection program, which just means we're going to lock you into that 360 price. We're going to come in, we're going to be able to walk the home. If there's anything we have to clean up, whether it's a hoarder room or maybe some landscaping, maybe you have to restage, take some professional photos to really get the property to what we call
Mhm.
a current condition retail value, we'll cover all that. And then when we do put it on the market, we actually cover all your realtor fees and your closing costs. And then whatever's left over will be a return on our service. Pitching that easy,
Mhm.
obviously my
Yep.
tonality is I do it all damn day, right? But
Mhm.
getting in front of that, sellers love it because they go, okay, you take over the marketing, maintenance, and management, the headache of the transaction, and the only way that I can make money is if they get exactly what they want. So
Yeah.
I go to an agent, and if they want 360, I know I can't sell for 500, but let's just say the agent goes, Trev, this is a good area. But it needs so much work. I mean, I could probably, if you end up fixing the water heater and mowing the lawns and taking some good photos, you could probably get it up there for 420, right? Okay.
Hmm.
So that means I put it on market for $419,000. I'm only targeting first-time homeowners, maybe VA loans. I'm not trying to target our 20% down conventionals. I'm just putting something out there, to be able to have a homeowner come in and understand where they're buying and work their own sweat equity into the property. If I get an offer at 420, after realtor fees and closing costs, I'm at 390. The seller wanted 360. I just made 30,000, and our average fee is about $33,000 on our service by putting anywhere between 1 to 5,000 if necessary.
All right. Okay. Well, that's a great example. I appreciate you sharing that. So everybody listening, this is one of those where you're going to want to, you know, follow up with Trevor. In fact,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about this later. There's a website you can go to, and it's there's university, Buyer Beater University, and we'll go into some of those logistics a little bit later here. But just with what Trevor just gave you, that should be the bell, the dinner bell, saying, "Oops, got to pay attention here." So in any case, uh, let's talk about like technically this falls in the world of wholesaling, but it's really not wholesaling in a traditional sense. And what is there one thing that you would like to tell wholesalers? What should wholesalers know about their business?
So they're leaving probably 70. I operate off the 10% rules. That's a great question. If you're a wholesaler, you're looking in front of it. Let's say you're contacting 1,000 people a day, or a month. 1,000 people translates to the 10%. You're going to get in front of 100 who probably answer their phone or text you back. Out of that 100, there might be 10 who might be willing to even entertain an offer. And out of those 10, you might be able to write up one contract, right? The
Mhm.
other majority, because of that position, you're losing out on a lot of money for the novation piece because the whole novation aspect is really, like I always saying, becoming
Mhm.
solution oriented for your homeowners, right? You're not
Right,
trying to corner them into a specific number that fits your investor. You're actually working the service to be able to benefit their pocket by allowing you to do a service for them, right? And so, like
right.
you said, you are ringing the bell, guys. This is, it can sound a little overwhelming, but I'll tell you right now, when you get this thing buckled and you start kind of being able to digest how to do one or two, you're off to the races. It really is very easy. The paperwork's not that hard, and you're very transparent with the homeowners, which is what I love. So if you're a wholesaler, you're looking into this and they want 20 to $50,000 more, that is a green light to be able to come in front of it and offer these kinds of creative services because homeowners nowadays, they're smart. They're already going to start shopping, but if you can be a one-stop shop to allow them to get what they want by you helping them, take over that management aspect, they're going to want to be able to sit on their boat. We call it the white glove service. They can kind of just relax, kick their feet up, and we end up taking on that headache for them. And they love it.
Yeah,
We rarely lose out on deals when it comes down to that.
yeah. Okay. All right. Now when we're looking at this, when somebody's wholesaling versus traditionally versus what you're doing, what would you say is the average? Like, how much more can you make with novations rather than doing traditional wholesaling? And we're not trying to pin you down. It's just like everybody, I can hear it now. Everybody's going to email and go online and say, hey, Gary, how much more can I make? you know, but is there a benchmark like on average across the deals you can say, hey, you can make, twice as much, 50% more, anything like that that you can draw from experience on?
That's a great question. I would say on average it's about 3 times more. Your 10,000 will easily
Okay.
turn into 30,000. But the better
Mhm.
question, right, especially for us, is we are all worried about, of course, making sure we have a sustainable practice within our business. But I'll tell you right
Mhm.
now, the residual business that you get by working the sellers into their equity is 10, you can end up getting 4 or 5 more opportunities coming from one seller when you get zero coming from a wholesaler. No one's going to be like, hey, you should totally use Trevor to sell your house. He gypped me out of 30K of my equity. You know what I mean? Like on the wholesale side, which by the way, I like wholesaler. I still wholesale. People think I don't. I think wholesale is a phenomenal means to get them in front of
Mhm.
cash quick because novations can take anywhere from 45 to 90 days, right? So it does take
Mhm.
longer. Um, so I would say about 3 times more. And that's if you put I would say 0 to about 5,000 into a deal. A lot of people don't put money into the home. I completely get it. That's my risk tolerance if I do end up putting a little bit into it because I want to make sure the property is presentable. Now, I want to hit the other aspect where this year we do end up we'll fully front the renovation costs on behalf of the seller as well through innovations. That's kind of what I
Mhm.
became a pioneer in and what I'm known for. So if you use the same situation, Gary, and the seller wants 360 and it's worth 500, but the property's vacant, and let's just say the tenant's just unloaded on the home, unfortunately, or it's in dire need of repair and they're older and they want to liquidate, and they're not near it. That's what I specialize in. I actually partner directly with the homeowner and I say, look, 360
Okay.
is too much. Good news is I got instead of utilizing cash to close on your home, I'll just utilize that as my repair budget. If I can come in as a private capital partner for you, guarantee a 360, and I just end up fully renovating the home on behalf of you. Any
Yeah.
appreciation I create through the renovation, when I sell it, I'll cover the realtor fees, closing costs, whatever's left over, is still a
Yeah.
return on my investment. Now, my 60 is easily making it, or my 50 is making 50, $60,000, and so we average that at about a 78% cash on cash, and we've even had over a 300% cash on cash, right? So that's
Yeah.
where you can really open the floodgates depending on what you're doing, and that's where the bell should go. Well, I got a lot of these, but I don't have the money. We provide the money through our community. We actually partner directly with our community members who have opportunity and have identified opportunity, and we're basically your creative bank, and we transact on it for you, so that way you can
Yeah.
focus on bringing the deal. We always say if you find it, we fund it, and that's been a great way to have a nationwide leg.
Well, I love it. And so it sounds like you really got this down to a science. And um, a lot of people it's like 90 days is the magic number. So can you secure one of these novation deals in 90 days? And how do you do that? What's the front end look like, you know? Mm.
Yes, so great question. If I were to have somebody, and I'll tell them right now, and this is something I just
Mm.
give away, and it's so funny to get DMs and so many people to be like, Trevor, you changed my life on this because it's very simple. There's two real ways. Novations on the equity protection side, which means that the seller resides in the home. You're not going to fully renovate it on behalf of them.
Mhm.
Trust me, Gary. I've done that multiple times. You make money, but it's the biggest headache ever. You don't want to manage that. So always know if it's occupied. You're going to be able to make you're going to consider it for the equity protection program. You don't put anything more than 5,000. You just maybe clean it up and test the market, right? For the homeowner.
Okay.
Now, when it comes down to the other side, which usually gets people very excited, and that's the renovation piece. The way I find my properties, now I'm doing it actually today at 1:30 Pacific. I do it every Tuesday at 1:30. We call it our on-market power hour. I call listings that have been sitting for 90 to 120 days on Redfin, $0, 0.99, free 99 for this. I call them and I call the listing agents. I go, hey, what are you doing? I see this property's been sitting for 3, 4 months. It needs work. It's vacant. I'm guessing you just getting two low ball offers. I mean, there's nobody really wanting to take this thing on. Listing agent goes, well, we're getting cash offers, but unfortunately they're just too low. I go, okay, where's your seller need to be? They give me a number and I say, okay, obviously I am an investor. That's a little too high on the front end side, but I am a creative cat. So what if, you know, what I kind of specialize in, what if we just end up positioning this and I pitch the fact I'll renovate the home on behalf of the seller, keep title in their name so they can control the property until we're able to sell the home, and they love it. And so we're getting, easily 2 to 3 locked in, a weekly or every bi-weekly, and we're managing right now about 31 transactions, and it's all mainly stemming from our on-market community. So we teach our community members to pitch this, get in front of its credibility, position it to our closers, and then we attach the community members to 25% of the equity. And boy, oh boy, that is great money when it comes down to it. And I don't have to worry about finding opportunity anymore. So that's kind of what we end up doing.
Yeah.
And if you want to get in front of your first deal, that is a great way to stumble to success and find those opportunities, because sellers need work on their homes and they don't have the money to do so.
Yeah. Yep. I agree 100%. I mean, and plus everything's gotten more expensive. We have
Oh, yeah.
a rehab analysis tool we use is kind of, well, I can just tell you, it's called Hammertown. It's like the one all the contractors use, and it's uncannily accurate. And you consumers are like shocked when they see what stuff costs these days. And like,
Oh
well,
my gosh.
there have been times in history, like when lumber went through the roof, and then
Yep.
whatever copper went through the roof. I remember those days. It's always something, but now it's just like everything. So, but so this is an awesome service that you're doing. What's really cool about this is you're literally removing maybe not 100% of the risk, but you're taking the risk on your shoulders from the owner. That's a huge benefit for
Yep.
people looking to sell, and they just like they don't have the time, energy, money, whatever the combination is, you know, to get this and be able to make more profit. I mean, good Lord. So well, let me ask you this. Being that you're in, military service, and I know I've had a lot of clients over the years that were either active duty, retired, or in reserves. All the branches. I would get calls from guys and overseas because I did something really smart. I'm an investor first, number one. When I got my license, I didn't use it for regular clients. I just not wasn't my
Mm.
thing. I just wanted to work with investors because it was fun. So I put this was Stars and Stripes was still active. Now I think it's just online. So everybody's an agent. Listen to this.
Yeah.
Instead of me putting my business card on Stars and Stripes, Gary Wilson, ABR, CRS, blah, 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 blah. You know, I put Gary Wilson specializing in military real estate investors. You'd have thought I'd invented pizza, man. My phone rang off the hook. Plus it didn't hurt that I was living right next to NASA Langley Air Force Base.
Oh, brother, that's
So
amazing. Yeah.
yep. So how do you get when you're active duty military? There's obviously some complications. I wouldn't say complications, challenges that civilians would have. So how can you share with all the military folks who are listening? How can they actually get started? Understanding that they've got obligations to the United States of America. Mhm.
Yeah, that's a great question, right? And I get this all the time, right? And there's a couple things that the military is great at, and unfortunately some that it's not. Financial
Mhm.
literacy is really not taught amongst our ranks. I tell you right now, people are still taking out personal loans for freaking necklaces, just to impress some chick they met, right? So coming in
Yeah.
front of that's because they're working 12, 16-hour days. And so to reclaim your time, I talk about NIPTs, like non-income producing tasks, right? There's a good
Yeah.
and bad with the W-2. There really is. For me, I knew that when I got off work, at 6 at night, for the most part, I understand that it goes back and forth. I wanted to be able to sit my butt down and only talk to people that wanted to talk to me. There's a way to automate that, right? So I ended up getting a cold caller. I've been using quality cold callers. Man, I love them for 4.5 years now. But the only reason why I position that out is because I know what my time is worth. So if you and your service really want to take this seriously, I would highly recommend, obviously, we do provide a lot of these opportunities on market with my Zooms and everything, but get yourself a cold caller. That way, when you sit down, they've already vetted the sellers, they've already built the form, they've already asked the questions, and you can get in front of it with a point of authority and try to be able to close them. That will only take about an hour of your time. If you can't find an hour of your
Yeah.
time, you're not in the right industry. You know what I mean? This is probably not the best thing for you, right? So you're going to have to put in
Yeah.
some work on that side. And then two, from the real estate side, I like the automation aspect, and I just like the fact to be able to, like you said, surround yourself with people who are utilizing, the VA benefits that you can reap, right? I mean, if you're hanging around people that don't know about the VA loan, they don't know how to utilize it, they don't know about their eligibility, find other friends in the service so that way you can end up starting to kind of understand what you can lean on with the military and start being able to build wealth in there. First and foremost, buy a house, right? Rates suck.
Right.
I totally get that. You have some of the best rates as a VA loan, 0% down, and you can refinance in 8 months. To me, in 8 months, I think rates are going to be way better. So, I mean, might as well come in now, utilize basic allowance for housing and position that. And you just be surprised if you park that as a little piggy bank, you revisit this conversation in a year, you're going to be in a lot better position than you just kind of sitting on your butt right now, and just thinking that it's not attainable. It totally, totally is.
Yeah. Well, there's so much. I mean, I coming from a military family also, and having so many clients, and I've been around the military my entire life. So some of the best investors I've had that I work with and taught were active duty. And what they would do is they would buy up to a fourplex where they were stationed. And as long
Yep.
as they lived there, it was legit and they could rent out the other units. And then if and when they get, new assignment, or whatever, to just move on 3 years later, they would refinance that with a conventional mortgage, freeing up their VA eligibility
Eligibility.
that you keep.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you keep that, for it's your life for you can shoot. And that cycle, that's what they would do to accumulate properties, which kind of leads me to the next question. Now, I will be the first to admit, when I first started investing, I just invested where I was. If I could see it over the horizon, I would go and drive there. If I could drive there in 15 minutes to a half hour, I would
Yeah.
invest there. And my mentor kept saying, "You're missing so many opportunities." So with what you're doing, Trevor, are you in multiple states? Are you doing this countrywide? Or kind of tell us a little bit about the geography and where you guys are operating?
Yeah, we've done about every state except a couple, and that's just because we don't get submissions for them, right? I haven't gone direct to seller in years now because I do focus on the education piece in the community. I tell them
Yep,
where our buy box is, what we're buying, what to say. They front end that, and then we can end up transacting on it for them, right? So we
yep,
are nationwide. So I will blanketly say we are nationwide. If the deal is good, we'll go there. We have a lot of pulse in a lot of markets, but I would recommend about five major markets, right? For us, we have, I would say Florida, California, Texas, Nevada, Arizona, and we might take Cali out a little bit and put in Tennessee, right? And so if you
yeah,
have opportunity there, I'll tell you what, we're going to be pretty active with those, and I'm an end buyer in those as well. Like I own about 10 over in Texas. I position a lot of these properties as midterm rentals, and I love it, and so.
yep,
I wouldn't, yeah, wherever you are, when you just get stationed there and you go, but I'm from Cali and I'm stationed over in North Carolina. I know nobody. You don't need to know anybody. You just need to know who knows somebody. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know on the
yeah,
side of getting involved, and then you can start spreading your legs, right? That's not an excuse.
yeah. Amen. By the way, that's a famous saying. I use that a lot too. It's often not even who you know, it's who they know, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, I got
so,
someone. I mean, that's how I started raising money. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I started getting in front of these opportunities and
yeah,
I didn't have the money at first, and then I started asking, and I had actually my business partner now, he was in commercial real estate before we got in the company together. Same thing. He's like, I mean, I got like people that might have like 20, 30K, and next thing you know, we're operating, we're operating funds in the millions. It's just so funny how what my favorite saying is, Gary, is imperfect action is better than perfect non-action. You know what I mean? It
yeah.
totally, totally is. You can
Oh yeah,
comp a property for an hour to make sure it fits, but if you don't get on the phone and call, you don't even know if they're interested, right? You got to reverse engineer that. Stumble your way into that success, get in front of it, see if it's for you, and I'll tell you what, that's going to start opening a lot more doors than thinking you need to have all the lights green before you go.
yeah, yeah. Hey, well, let's do this. Let's wrap it up with I mentioned the buyer beater university earlier because I wanted to intrigue people because I know when they first like, what do you mean buyer beater? What's this all about? But
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about the education because it is so important to my business and my life, and it sounds like it is to you too, Trevor. If you could talk about the education piece and how can people participate in that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So buyer beater's name really just came from the fact that I pride myself in bridging the gap between sellers and solutions by becoming a buyer beater. You're not going to beat me with my offers because I mean, we offer multiple, right? I focus on cash offers, two novations. I've done multiple seller finances, subject twos, agents I work directly with. So if it's going to be an opportunity, I want the sellers to know I'm going to hold their hand to the right solution, and I teach all of them, right? And if you want to specialize in a format, we have people that are going to focus on that growth within that individual opportunity, right? And so we have two models that we work with. Our community-driven model. We also have our one-on-one mentorship, where we do guarantee, deals within 90 days. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be, it is life-changing on that side, which is fun. And then when it comes down to it, our Zooms are every week, right? We do our in-person events. I have Zooms every single day, multiple that I have my team end up, getting in front of. They're all recorded, and we try to gear it to as personal as we can. And it's been so fun to not just grow the educational piece, but you really will start, doing deals within the community with other people who are local. So it's a great way to utilize that as a vehicle to work with people local to you. And just realize, like I said earlier, real estate's attainable. If you're a plumber, if you're a teacher, you just want to buy one deal, it doesn't matter. We can cater the skills towards you, and you can go do it at your own pace, and we can just help you through it. And that's been really fun to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. So going online, um, what's the best? I mean, I'm guessing you're on social media too, but what are the ways that people can connect with you? Your website
Yeah. So
as well as social media, you know?
absolutely. Website is buyerbeateruniversity.com, right? It's a great way
Mhm.
to enroll, kind of read more about it. If you want to just start, asking some questions and get in front of, a quicker opportunity, you're more than welcome to DM me at Invest with Trev. I'm very active on my Instagram, all social media platforms. I would say, for me personally, Instagram has been a great way to start engaging. So you're more than welcome to do that. Email me at trevor@buyerbeater.com, and we'll get back in front of you with any questions that you have, and see if it's going to be a good fit to start doing deals together.
Awesome. Well, listen, this has been one of my favorite podcasts, and I really appreciate you spending your time with us, Trevor, and sharing. I mean, you actually dropped a lot of hunks of gold on the path to success. So
Appreciate that.
we really
Thank you.
we, we really appreciate that. If
Of
everybody
course.
listening, yeah, man, and everybody listening, if you can leave a review, we really do appreciate it. Trevor and I both. It's not, this is a community service, so it's not like we're making any direct profit from this or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
network building, and I think you should participate too if you're listening. But you can do your part by leaving a review. That's all I'm asking. Just take 60 seconds, do it. We appreciate it. I appreciate you listening and or watching if you're doing this on YouTube or Facebook. Trevor, I appreciate you, and for all of you, take care of yourselves. God bless you and your loved ones, and we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.